Long-time viewers of What's It Like will know that I really knew nothing about anime until I recently played One Piece Odyssey, a game that I thoroughly enjoyed. To continue my new trend of playing outside the box, so to speak, I decided to try my hand at the oddly titled That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, which came as a surprise to me as I haven't really heard much about the game leading up to its release, or almost making the title feel like a shadow drop. What's it like? Assemble some villagers, get your town plans ready, and prepare to head out as we review That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime for Nintendo Switch. Before we embark on this review, would you mind liking and subscribing, please? It's the best way that outlets like What's It Like can be found on YouTube, and I can't thank you enough for doing so. That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime is both a weird and interesting concept. The titular character is fatally stabbed in the real world, and as he lays dying, he visualizes the hot and cold he feels and gains resistance to those elements, and then wakes up in a fantasy world as a slime, essentially reborn as Rimuru Tempest. After trudging through the world, Rimuru stumbles into a cave where he meets the dragon Veldora, who grants Rimuru the power of sight and the ability to absorb monsters to grow in power. After absorbing Veldora at his request and several monsters, Rimuru leaves the cave and finds new allies to create a village of goblins, dwarves, and all sorts of humanoid fantasy creatures. You won't spend the game as a slime, however, as you absorb a dying comrade at their request to take their form. Now, while all of this may sound like a lot to take in, this is literally the first 10 minutes of the game, and it acts like a crash course into the world of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, meaning it's accessible to people like me who don't know much about the series. Upon further research into the series for this review, it appears that this game highlights a lot of key points in the series, so it does skip some minor plot points but provides a more comprehensive insight into the world. The gameplay loop sees you head out to locations on a side-scrolling 2D plane to battle monsters and complete objectives in order to bolster your town. It's fairly heavy on exposition at times, but I did feel like it did a good job of filling in the gaps and explaining the rules of this world. Exploring locations usually sees you walk around, engage in combat, and defeat a final powerful enemy, which acts like a boss. These expeditions are short and add to the portability of the game, allowing you to complete an expedition in less than 5 minutes, progress some more, and then head back out. I think that the rapid nature of the gameplay loops kept me engaged despite it being a little bit of a grind. The rinse and repeat gameplay may not be for all, but the story and town progression were enough to keep me on the hook throughout my time. The strength of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime certainly lies within the combat system, which is easy to use with a simplistic approach, but also has a fair amount of depth for those looking to maximize abilities. You can juggle enemies using your melee and spell attacks, call in support, switch to other characters in your party for more combos, and perform your hidden ability moves, which trigger a stylish animation. It's fast paced and you feel slick dodging and countering attacks. It's not particularly challenging and gives players breathing space to enjoy the story. I did find that sometimes I would press the wrong inputs for spells, which are pressing X in a direction on the control stick, which can be quite hectic while you're dodging and maneuvering in combat. It wasn't really game breaking, but sometimes it was very frustrating relying on the analog stick for both movement and spell inputs. Much like One Piece Odyssey, the game is completely voice acted in Japanese and has a wide range of characters that you can battle beside and against, as well as support characters that work like SNK tag fighting games, able to summon them in to jump in temporarily for battle. Stats also play a huge role in That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, and nearly everything you do will impact your characters in one way or another. Firstly, you can assign points to unlock the individual stats of both main and support characters. But you also build up your town to bolster the stats as well, with each building in your town adding something new to your overall stats. So it becomes essential to plan out things and restructure to get the best out of your characters. The good news though, for players who don't like micromanagement, you can auto-assign your stat points and also auto-assign your buildings if you want to dive quickly back into the story or the action. There are some tropes and cliches that we see in games of this nature, but I did find the concept of this fantasy world an interesting one, and the characters all have a certain charm about them. The art style of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime is serviceable, with great looking character models and combat effects, but for some reason, the environments and locales seem a bit watered down. Combat is fast and slick, and the game doesn't really skip a beat with the exception of when you break shields on a character. The game actually pauses to indicate the break, which some might misconstrue as a dip in frame rate. There's a decent variation on enemies and locations, although I did find the backtracking and repeat of areas start to feel a bit repetitive as there was no change in the paths you could take. For my slimes who are looking for accessibility options, there are no special features for vision impairment. At times, combat can be crowded, and switching between characters may be hard to track. There is the ability to have a mini-map on the top right hand corner of the screen which helps you navigate expeditions as well as in town. As the game is in Japanese, there are subtitles to help you follow the story, and dialogue only progresses when you press a button to help you catch up. Or you can have text auto-progress if you want things to flow faster. The ability to change the difficulty to story is a plus, and it will assist in making combat a more accessible experience. That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime will take you about 15 hours to complete. There are plenty of side quests to tackle as well, and it does have a rather steep price tag of $76 Australian, which might be a tough sell for people who aren't fans of the series, even though the story does a great job of filling you in with the lore of the world. The hook of the story and the concept of it is certainly a unique one, which kept me invested in the game. The combat is fast and slick while also being accessible, and despite the plain environments, the characters and effects look great. That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime is a fun action RPG that allows both fans and newcomers to participate in this interesting and unique world. So, what's it like? That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime is like Tales of Symphonia and Sakuna. I award it a 72 out of 100. In the interest of full disclosure, a review copy was provided by Bandai Namco, but this does not impact my score. Thanks so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. The best way you can support me is to like and subscribe and continue watching my content if you enjoy it. But if you do want to go that bit extra, you can buy me a coffee or join our Patreon, which shows you behind the scenes of this channel. Thanks again.